And we're back for another episode of Daily Grind. As you see, the newest addition to the squad, Virgil van Dijk. He's been awesome. The one thing people were concerned about a bit was his pace. I can assure you, his pace is not a problem. You see there, Premier Division, number 23 in the world, and 10 wins, 5 draws, 2 losses since coming to the Premier League. And Virgil van Dijk hasn't had one issue with his pace or anything like that. And his excellent defense, stats-wise, absolutely transfers to the field. So if you can afford him or you want to get him, strongly recommend Virgil van Dijk. I want to say this about this matchmaking, right? So I don't know this for a fact. I just am taking another content creator's word for it, that in the Premier Division, the first 5 minutes, probably any division I guess it would be, but for me, it's the first 5 minutes they're trying to match me with the equal level player, which would be Premier Division. After that 5 minutes on the search, it says broadening the search. And apparently that after those 5 minutes, if someone like close to your rank isn't available, they'll open up the search and allow you to play, players outside. Hence why I've only played one Premier Division player. Now, if this content creator is correct, that would make sense because the higher you go, like with me, I'm 23 in the world right now, it's going to be harder to find equal level opponents to that, right? Which is also why it's been so much more wait time since I've gotten to the Premier Division. Sometimes I've gone as high as like 30 minutes where I've had to go in and out of the search engine 3 or 4 times. And then, even when I do get games, it's always 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes every time. So the volume of games has definitely gone down. I truly hope they can fix that. It's like you get punished the higher you go. You get to play less of the game. So that just doesn't make sense. I'm not saying match me against a gold or even, whatever, wherever you want the cutoff to be, but something's got to give because waiting this long to play games, like I said, it's like you're being punished the better you do. So you see there the squad. You're about to see the highlights in a bit. I want to show you the squad that I'm utilizing. Still using the 5-2-3 a vast majority of the time, but I'm going to tease here a tactic breakdown that I'm going to do coming up, and this is a different 5-back system that also has an alternate 4-back version of it, and they are fantastic. It does 2 things. One, it helps you combat the meta, right? If you hate the meta and you want to beat players that are abusing it, this next formation that I will go over can help you do that. It has a 4-back version as well. Not only that, but it can also help you prepare for this patch coming. If it does what it says it's supposed to do, the L1 triangle will be nerfed out of the game. There'll be a lot less, need or, players abusing the crosses, I guess you could say. In which case, the middle of the field will be back in action with moving the ball. So again, just want to tease that this next formation breakdown will be an anti-meta / good way to prepare for the post-patch potential meta, right? With that being said, we are going to get into the highlights. A lot of familiar faces is Trajak. I've beat several times. I do notice that every time I face these guys that I faced for a while, it's like I could see them adopting more and more and more of the abusive mechanics, if you will, or the OP mechanics would probably be a better name for it. And I don't blame them at all, right? Like, if you want to compete, you got to use this stuff. By the way, for any players holding out and just struggling despite, knowing they could use some of these mechanics and they just refuse, hats off to you. I couldn't do it. I couldn't be struggling for that long. But the bonus is when the patch comes, you won't need to shake off any rust. A lot of players are going to have a rude awakening. I know, like some players like myself, we're going to have to shake off the rust. I've been trying as much as possible to get away from some of the abusive mechanics, but a lot of these games at the high level are sweaty, so there's no doubt I'm going to have some rust to shake off once I'm not able to use some of these. But you've seen some of these goals already. Not the typical, lob crosses or finesse shots or whatnot. So I'm definitely leaning that way. I feel like I have a healthy dose compared to a lot of players with using the, regular football to score goals like that right there where it's left stick dribbling or passing. You see here another one. Both of those were in the 4-2-4, which I just did that formation breakdown. That was a fun set of games using that, it was my secondary formation for a while, but I found a better alternate. You see again, Trey Jack, I don't know if he tried to trick us or what, but he changed his badge on us from the first time we played him, right? So he's a player that I'm actually going to give him credit. He used this formation that I'm going to be breaking down next, this next 5-back formation. He was kind of the inspiration for it. I do beat him here. I do beat him most every time, but he did well in this formation, enough so that I decided I wanted to check it out, and it's now my secondary formation, as you saw at the beginning of the video. So it's a 5-3-2 for those of you who didn't see. But it's basically, I think it's listed as a 5-2-1-2, right? But it's basically a 5-3-2. You'll see it when I break it down in detail. And then the 4-back version of that would be the 4-1-2-1-2. So again, that'll be the next meta tactics video. It's more like anti-meta, but you get what I'm saying. Speaking of meta, there was a typical meta header, a dunk from Holland there. A lot of these games were close games, though, even though they're not Premier Division opponents, which is no fault of my own. This was a beautiful goal out of that 5-1-2-1-2. Or sorry, 5-2-1-2. It would be a 4-1-2-1-2. That was a 5-2-1-2. This is another goal out of that 5-2-1-2. You see there, the opponent had to go mark the middle because I had been destroying him up the middle, similar to what he was doing to me. And then I gave him the good old lob cross, for old time's sake. So, hope you enjoyed the highlights. We're still rocking and rolling. Like I said, I hope in the future they can fix this matchmaking so I can get more volume of games. But not a bad little, set of highlights there. And not a bad record, too, as we go to the very top. I would love to face some of these top 10 players. My goal is to get as high as possible. And I can only play who's put in front of me, though. And like I said, it's not that they're bad games either. I'm not saying that there's plenty of close games. There's one in there, an opponent I played 3 times in a row. I talked about this in my 4-2-4 breakdown. He was inspiration behind why I kind of adopted that 4-2-4 for a little bit. And I was able to get him twice in Showdown, then played him three times in a row. Pretty laggy games, but it was basically I matched his medicine with the 4-2-4. Tied twice. He was able to get me once, and I shouted him out for this earlier. I'm going to shout him out again. He was the only player against me, and probably out of this whole game, probably one of the few players to do this, but scored 2 goals in literally the 90th minute and then 90th minute plus to come back from 2-0 and tie a game. Then was able to get me next time. So he got revenge for his 2 losses. I think he's only a Ruby 2 player, if I'm not mistaken, but shout out to that guy. You can look up his PSN. He's an Xbox guy, so I have no problem giving opponents like that credit. Shout out to, I believe it was Trey Jack. Again, you can go look at his PSN, another Xbox player, but for giving me inspiration for the next formation that I will be breaking down that I utilize now as my secondary, and it is fantastic, the 5-2-1-2, or if you like 4-back, the 4-1-2-1-2. So, that's about all I have for you now. Keep grinding. Until next time, have a good one.